Good. On the phone, or whichever it is, this is Michael Guest. Good morning, Congressman. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Brother Paul. You having a good day?
Good day. Glad to see you, sir. I know this has been a contested and it's been kind of a weird runoff here. And I did have your opponent, Mr. Cassidy, on the other day. And I think maybe it's the first time that some people have heard his platform. And to be just honest with you, he changed the platform. There are some things in there that I maybe would say I understand where he's coming from. But one of the things, and if you said it, I would say the same thing about any other member of the delegation other than Benny Thompson, when he says that you are for funding Planned Parenthood. Your statement on that statement that he made.
I just say that nothing could be further from the truth. I would put my pro-life record up against any member, not only of the Mississippi delegation, but of Congress. Mm-hmm. I mean, Paul, in this race, we've been endorsed by the two major pro-life groups in Washington, D.C. for my 100% pro-life voting record. We have the endorsement of National Right to Life, and also have the endorsement of Susan B. Anthony. I was actually at the United States Supreme Court. I had the chance to address the rally there as Dobbs v. Jackson, the Supreme Court case that we're all waiting anxiously to be handed down, was being argued. I actually led the amicus brief for members of Congress setting forth both factually and legally why Roe should be overturned. And if people don't believe that, I just encourage your listeners to please go to Planned Parenthood's website. Planned Parenthood has a website where they give a number grade for every member of Congress, 0 being the worst, 100 being the best. In both last Congress and this Congress, I have a score of 0 with Planned Parenthood. For him to say that because I voted for a spending bill to fund the military or to fund the government, that therefore somehow I am not pro-life and he is the pro-life candidate is just false and misleading. And I'm hopeful that the people of Mississippi will see through that. He's got no pro-life record to stand on. He's never done anything. He's never been a part of any pro-life group. And now he is trying to claim that he is the pro-life candidate with no record to back that up.
Well, look, I just got to tell you, as an individual, as a citizen, that is lucky enough to have a microphone, it boils the hell out of me, whether it be you or anybody else or any party, when they come out with a blatant lie. And to me, it sets the tone of who you are for the future. Now, if there's one little bit shred of truth in there, then you have to explain exactly how you got there. But you couldn't have gotten where you are with the endorsements by absolutely having the billboard Michael Guest supports Planned Parenthood. And that is wrong. And I don't care how much you're against you or for you or him. That's just wrong. That's no way to start and to come to the people and say, elect me as your United States Congressman because I will do you right. It's just not. Your thoughts?
Well, and I agree. I mean, that's somebody that would do anything or say anything to get elected, and someone who is not going to be truthful with the people of Mississippi. Just as we've seen with his recent spending plan, which he had up on his website for weeks, if not months, leading up to the June 7th primary. Then when people started actually looking into Michael Cassidy and who he is and what he stands for, and he was proposing $48 trillion in spending, Paul, we see that he immediately took that off of his website. He scrubbed his website, and now he claims that he doesn't believe that. And so we have someone who appears to me that would do anything or say anything regardless of what impact it has, as long as he thinks it advances his ability to be elected to serve in Congress.
This is one of those races where in a primary, if you don't think it's important to get out and vote, this is a perfect example of what can happen. The giving every couple who gets married $20,000, I challenged him on that this week, and several of the other things that he was talking about. And you can't just put that in print, spend literally thousands of dollars to deliver it to the people of your district, and then all of a sudden say, well, we had some people complain. We decided that's not part of my belief system. That's not the way it goes, and that's not what you want in a long-term congressman from your district. The the ability to say that if I disagree with you on one or two things, throw the baby out with the bathwater, is what a lot of people don't understand. I think you and I have had this conversation on the January 6th and that whole committee. And if you want to take a chance at the remaining time to explain that, I'll let you explain it. Your vote on the January 6th committee.
Yeah, and want to make it very clear to your listeners that I did not vote to support the current January 6th Nancy Pelosi Select Committee. I, along with all but two Republican members, voted against that. What I did vote to support previously, prior to that, was a bipartisan commission that would have been made up of law enforcement officers. There would have been 5 Republican-appointed law enforcement officers, 5 Democratic-appointed law enforcement officers. They would have had limited subpoena power. They would have had a very limited window to perform their inquiry, roughly 6 months. And we wouldn't have had the circus that we've seen today. What has transpired is this current committee, again, the one that I didn't vote for, and if elected to Congress, I hope that day one will have the ability to vote to disband that committee, has turned into nothing more than a political sideshow and a political circus. Paul, we even saw this past weekend President Trump come out, and President Trump came out, and I think he used the word foolish, that it was foolish that Republicans were not properly represented on what was the inquiry into January 6th. The vote that I took, we would have been represented. We would have had equal representation, 5 Republicans, 5 Democrats. Again, you wouldn't have been able to subpoena all these people to come testify because their subpoena power would have been very limited. And their hearings would have not been conducted on primetime television, but would have been conducted behind closed doors. A report would have been issued, and this whole matter would have been put to bed. And we would not have the circus sideshow that we see today.
Yeah, I think Kevin McCarthy made that decision to pull them after she rejected a couple, and it might have backfired on him. At least, like you said, we would have had some representation. Now it's just like having a trial out there with the prosecution and no defense at all, and it's so one-sided that it's blaring. The good news on that is that their television audience has not been that good, so I don't think a lot of people are very interested in that. The other part of this is, as far as incumbency, if the House is won back by the Republicans, where does that put your seat and your incumbency, your seniority?
Well, I want to first remind all your listeners that during the entire time that I've served in Congress for 3.5 years, I've served in the minority. Nancy Pelosi has been Speaker of the House, and so it has been very difficult and very frustrating for conservative members like me as we're pushing a conservative or trying to push a conservative agenda to have that continually stonewalled by Speaker Pelosi. Once Republicans retake the House, and I feel confident that there will be a wave election in November, and then on January 3rd that Speaker Pelosi will no longer have the gavel, we'll be able to advance our legislation. I have had the opportunity in my time in Congress, a short period of time, to advance up particularly on the Committee of Homeland Security, a very important committee as we're going to be dealing with the border crisis that we've seen along the southwest border. It also has great influence over law enforcement. FEMA falls under there, and we know how important FEMA can be during times of hurricane and national disaster. I have the opportunity next year to serve a very important role. I'll be one of the members that will be considered as fourth chairman for that committee as we retake the House. I also serve on transportation infrastructure, and I think we all know the importance of the infrastructure needs that we have in Mississippi. Roads, bridges, water, sewage. There's such a slew of infrastructure needs. In addition to those needs, you also have rural broadband. I'll have the ability, based upon the committees that I serve and the time that I've spent in Congress, to have a much greater influence. Again, Republicans will retake the House. You will see a much more conservative agenda, and myself and other members of the Mississippi delegation will help drive that agenda.
Do you think there's any, and we only got a few seconds here, do you think there's any appetite for having another real, this time, January 6th investigation?
At this point, I think that this January 6th, I think people are tired of it. People are ready to move on. Yeah. This has been talked about for months now. And I think people are ready to get back to tackling real problems like gas prices and inflation and rising
I agree with you.
And the numbers on the border.
Michael Guest, Congressman Guest, thank you, sir. appreciate you spending some time with us, and good luck. The election is Tuesday. Nothing more needs to be